love that shit, man. It still doesn't get old. I still love jamming out to Long Cut. Shout out to Long Cut. Those are our friends, buddy of mine from the Marine Corps. They're country rappers now. I didn't even know that was a thing until we saw them touring across the country, and then now I want to jump on the bandwagon, make it cool. And speaking of cool, we got a really cool guest.
We do have a cool guest, man.
I got something for you.
Oh no,
he's not allowed to talk right now.
He's gonna play Despacito on his phone right now.
I am not. I got something even better. If you got, hold on a minute here. Let's see here.
What do you got?
I'm under the gun. Don't you worry about it. Let's see here. There we go. Right here. However, I consider my life worth nothing to me. My only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me. The task of testifying to the good news of God's grace. That's Acts 20:24. Probably something that all of us need to hear, especially right now. I know we're kind of like hopefully on the back end of COVID and elections and riots and just a lot of stuff going on. And what better way to just start a podcast, I felt, diving into this kind of social. I've been a fan of this guy since 2008, just diving into his social media and what he's all about, what he stands for, and what's important to him. And I said, man, that's a really cool message that he's got on his Instagram. So I want to throw that out there. In addition to that amazing message and this guy's character, he's also as thick as cold peanut butter. So for the show, because I gotta get jacked up for this dude, make sure he knows I'm on his tail, right? I'm like right there to his fitness level. Yeah, right. I'm getting there. So I got some cold peanut butter flavored protein. I swear to God, this is peanut butter flavored. I swear to God, it's cold. It's as cold as I could get it for this dude right now for the podcast. But what a pleasure, man. Today we've got Dan Bailey on the show, CrossFit stud, entrepreneur stud, good dude, faithful dude. What better guy to have on, especially in today's times? Dan, what's going on, my man?
Oh, man, I appreciate all of that. You are way too kind, and thank you guys for having me on.
Right on, dude. And this is, I promise you, this is peanut butter.
That's just straight peanut butter.
Well, and then it should be. It probably should be. It's not. It's a lighter, it's probably a lighter first form isolate, something as such like that. Peanut butter flavor. So I'm doing the best I can, but I'm on a 75 hard right now.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So I don't think Annie would let me have just like a jar of peanut butter. Like, hey, Annie, can I drink peanut butter for my 75 hard? I don't think he would like, and we're going to go see him in December. I don't think he would care for that. He'd probably tell me to fuck off. Is what I
gotta believe that's not going to fly on 75 hard at like a full. Yeah.
No. It's not at all, man. But for our listeners, right, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. If you guys like it, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Obviously, you guys can find us here live on Facebook. But Dan, for everybody that might not know who you are, would you mind giving us a little bit of context, just growing up and then into your athletic career? Just kind of give us a synopsis of who you are and what you're all about, and then we'll kind of dive into your story and shoot it from there.
Yeah, so, I mean, the reason that most people follow me on social media or anything like that is I've been a CrossFit Games athlete since 2010. Actually, 2010 was the first year that I competed, but I didn't make it, and then made it to the Games 5 years in a row after that. Finished in the top 10 every year, with fourth being my highest finish, won 2 regionals, and won the first ever CrossFit Games Open. Before that, I grew up in a little slice of heaven called Uniontown, Ohio, where great families, great people, great teachers, great school system. Was a track and field guy there and got a scholarship to Ohio University for track and field for 4 years. And then was a teacher for a little bit and kind of stumbled into CrossFit, and the rest is kind of a blur over the past like 10, 11 years. So, I mean, I can't believe thinking about it, like how fast it went by thinking about like 10 years ago. But that's kind of a brief synopsis of where I've come from and where I've been.
All I heard was teacher, man.
That's what I was about to jump all over that.
What were you teaching? I got to hear this.
What do you think I was teaching?
You feel like a I'm gonna give it some thought. I feel like astrology or math.
Astrology? Do they teach astrology?
Yeah, I feel like it was one.
Yeah, dude.
Am I close?
No, not really. No, I was actually a physical education teacher.
There you go.
Man, that was my fifth guess. That was my fifth guess.
Dude, you're in way too good a shape to be a phys ed teacher, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
What grade level were you teaching?
I was certified to teach basically K through 12, and then I taught middle school, so like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. physical education. Like class size is full of 60
Wow.
in a small town in Reedley, California.
Let's be real. Let's be real right now. And I got to get your honest opinion. Junior high kids fucking suck. They're assholes. We were all there. They're assholes. What better?
That's what makes them the best, though.
I know. Like, what better grade level to teach gym class and just fuck these kids up than junior high? Like, what were you doing? And I also wonder, like, why fitness is like no longer a part of schools. I feel like some policy was written about Dan, and like he went so far with it that they're like, yeah, no physical education in schools. We've got the Dan Bailey rule. Like, what were you doing to these kids? What was that like, man?
Yeah. So, it was, I mean, I learned more in like 3 months of teaching that grade level with that many students than I probably did in at least 2.5 years of going to school for it. Like, I learned more about what works, what doesn't work. Yeah, you take this principle from your textbook and you try to apply it here, and kids just walk all over you because they're middle schoolers. And like you said, they're little jerks, like pretty much the entire 45 to 60 minutes you have them. But it was intense. Like, I had to wake up every morning and just be like, hey, you need to laugh at 90% of what's going to happen today. There's the 10% that you need to handle, like situations that you need to like pull somebody aside, or you need to give out a detention or send somebody to the principal. But 90% of that is just, it's just BS. It's just kids being kids, and you need to have fun with it and like roll with it. That's going to make you a better teacher. So
what got you to, you know, I guess a 2-point question. What got you to realize just laughing stuff off and, hey, that's going to get you to be a better teacher? And did that make you a better teacher because the more you allowed some certain things and the more you were forgiving to just let them express some energy and kind of express themselves, did that make them engage or respect or connect with you more? Or what was it about? Like, how did you get to that conclusion? And once you started exercising that conclusion, what was the outcome from that?
Yeah. So there were definitely a few times, you know, you're the first teacher, so this is your first year of teaching, so you want to establish dominance. Like, this is my first job. I'm not going to make myself look bad, and I'm not going to get walked all over and XYZ, all those things. And so I took a couple things with a couple kids way too extreme, and like just, went way too hardcore and gave no room to like bend a little bit, no wiggle room in there for anybody. And I saw like how that impacted the rest of my year with those kids. They were done. Like, it was just like shut off. I was cut off. I was not the guy to come talk to. And that's what especially a PE teacher, coach, those kind of things, that's part of your job. Like, you're always going to be kind of like a therapist as well to anybody that you're coaching. And that's just the nature of the beast. Right. So I noticed that with that group of kids or anybody that I did that to, it was like they were just shut off from me. Like, they didn't want to reopen up. They didn't want to re-engage. They didn't want to do anything. So I had to learn pretty quick that like, hey, this is not the best route to take. Like, being hardcore Dan, which is doesn't show up very often. I'm usually a pretty loose, pretty chill guy. Is not the way that I'm going to win over people to get them to see the benefit in what I want them to do. So from there, it was you need to loosen up a little bit. You need to put your list of things that are absolutely unacceptable, and the rest of this stuff is like, these are just kids. This is how you need to handle this. And you need to find a way to spin it to have some fun with it, right? To make them enjoy the process a little bit more and not be too serious.
Right. And man, what did you want to say something,
Yeah,
Connor? How about Connor, you shut the fuck up so I tell you to talk. This fucking guy's got questions. I go, yeah.
No,
and then he's like, hey, dude, let me just.
It's related.
We're gonna well, subjectively.
It's important.
Except for that you're not important. So it doesn't. No, we're going to get your
Is
question.
this the Brian Callen of the group? Did we just get our own Brian Callen?
No,
right
Connor
now?
will ask some questions. But man, I was so curious about that because I felt that as a cop. All right, like, I've got this badge on, and I've got this image of what I think I'm supposed to be doing for the public. But then the more and more you get versed in police work and you start understanding where people have shortcomings or need outlets or need someone to talk to, you start realizing like, oh, this has nothing to do with my badge and gun, has everything. You know, now similar like to how you had your non-negotiables. Hey man, you know, obviously like Century 16 theater shooting or bad guys with guns and gangs. Hey, non-negotiables. You want to? Hey, we're in that. It's that rodeo. Cool, man. We're gonna ride that one out. Cool.
Right.
However, outside of those non-negotiables, it was like, man, it's not your badge, it's not your gun. It's man, you got to be a person, and you've got to figure out a way to just, what am I supposed to be for this person right now? How can I build value? And I'm guessing like very similar for you when you started getting a little bit more poised with teaching and just understanding some of those things, was just realizing how many kids don't have outlets. and how much, oh, this has nothing to do with fitness, but if I can get them to engage with me, I can show them how fitness relates to everything, right? Yep. But at first, they've got to relate and trust you. Is that kind of how it felt for you as well? Is it very similar?
Yeah, and a great example of that. This is a student I worked with a little bit directly, but not constantly on a one-on-one basis. And I didn't really have any foul ups with him or anything like that. He was just a little bit quieter, but he was gone for a little while, and nobody really knew why. Nobody was really talking about it. And then obviously we had a teachers meeting, and it turns out that this kid who's in middle school was at home with his parents. His parents left to do, I don't know what, but left him basically in the closet with his sister and I don't know how many drugs, pounds of marijuana and all this other stuff, and basically told them to protect it while they were gone.
Wow.
Damn.
Right. This kid's coming to school to try to learn math and participate in sports. And like, that's one story, right? Think about the rest of that, whatever else is going on there. And so of course that kid's going to react weird. Of course he's going to respond differently and probably act out. And, you know, that is not a situation that any child should be in ever. Right. Like, and so when you get faced with those things, it's like, oh, okay. Like that's the other reason why there needs to be a big grain of salt here with what's going on. Right. And like you said, here's the non-negotiables, but you don't know what's going on in the background of that person's life that's making them do the thing that they're doing. So why don't you figure that out first and act in a way, respond in a way that's going to enable them to trust you with some kind of information. Then you can kind of move along to, here's what I want you to do and need you to do for class or for whatever it is. Right. So to your point, 100%, there's so many other things that are going on with different behaviors and those kind of things. And that's something that I had to learn right away with being a teacher.
What do you got, Connor? See that natural.
Well, now I'm just going to kill the mood after that. So
see the natural respiratory pause. That's me allowing the question.
No. So Dan, I was going to ask, were you one of those?
Well, hold on a minute. Before you ask a question, like, Dan, I'm your biggest fan. I brought a sign. I love Dan on this. I'm front row. Like nothing.
I got his hat on. I got a good dude's coffee hat on right now. So
all right, say something like that. Now the questions come.
Dan, were you one of those teachers who would you get mad when kids called it gym versus PE?
No, I didn't mind that.
I had a teacher in high school who would just sit kids down, send them to detention.
I didn't even know that was.
So I was wondering if you. Oh yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah,
that's a big thing.
Because they say gym's a place, not a class.
Well, I'm super glad you asked it because I didn't even know it was a thing. Oh. Definitely more relatable than any police shit. I gotta say, that's for sure. So. Dude, us old guys, we didn't have anything to do with that.
No, I think the audience at home was just sitting there and they were like, "Man, I wonder if Dan was just, if the PE or gym thing." Yeah. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you asked.
I was curious, so
I'm so glad Connor's here. All jokes aside, and all jokes aside, Connor's a stud, man. We love this dude, and obviously inviting him here was super fun. And so when you're doing that, man, did you grow up faithful? Did you grow up around the church? Was it more of just the leadership and faith that your parents had that they instilled in you? What helped you, I guess, have the poise to catch on, like when you weren't being the teacher you thought you should have been at first and you're establishing dominance and all right, cool, quickly, that wasn't the right idea. Was it other teachers that helped mentor you with that? Was it just your parents? Was it your own intuition and how you'd been raised to just kind of see that? What was it for you?
Yeah, I would say all three of those things really are a handful of things. One, I was raised in the church. I was raised in the Catholic Church, actually, and then jumped ship with the Catholic Church and started going to just a non-denominational church. And there's a lot of teachings there through not only the church, but sports and all these other things that kind of wrap in together about servant leadership. And so Jesus Christ was an incredible servant who also led, the biggest movement that probably anybody's ever seen in the entire world, right? But he was a guy who served in specific ways, right? He was still able to wash his servants' feet. He was able to wash his disciples' feet, but at the same time, he was able to rebuke them, to teach them, to tell them what they're doing wrong and give them like correction in terms of what the right way to go. Mm-hmm. And so I was taught about that stuff at a really early age, and you learn those different things through coaches, sports, trials you have. And then my parents were I couldn't ask for two greater parents, completely humble people who took care of my brother and I, unlike anything else. And then, teachers, the reason I became a teacher was actually because of two coaches and teachers that I had in high school. I knew the impact that they had on my life, and I wanted to have the same on other kids' lives growing up. So basketball and physics teacher. His name is Chad Spurgeon.
Physics teacher influenced him. I knew there's gonna be some smart shit
knew
in
it
there
was in there
somewhere, bro.
somewhere.
Yep.
Oh,
He just had this way with kids. I don't know how to explain it. Like the first time I met him, he was.
I can
be our
imagine he's
basketball
teaching physics. It's not the material that's getting you to connect. That's for sure.
No,
right? It's got to be him.
He was a bro. Like he was a dude's dude. Like I don't know how he communicated that so well, but he did. Like the first day that we were in the weight room, I had just met him, knew that he was going to be like our sophomore basketball coach. And I was screwing around doing something stupid, like nothing really harmful, but he walked right up behind me, just full palm, and smacked the back of my head. And I like got hit by it and like felt myself kind of fall forward. And I spun around to see who it was. And there's my coach just sitting there like this, like ready to go. And I'm like, immediately I was just like, I love this guy. Like he was my dude after that, like no matter what it was.
And it's super cool because he was a guy. He taught physics and it's so interesting that you say that because I think a lot of us need to find something that's relatable. Like, oh, I could do that. Because sometimes if it's, maybe a different style or different look teacher, I had old school teachers. I just, and I had a couple good ones, but some of them, like I could never imagine myself being a teacher. So it had to be some of that too, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Between him and my track coach, Jeff Wertman, he was the guy who he believed in you. He made you think you were $1 million before you were anything, right? He's like, oh, I see the potential in you and I'm going to let you know what your potential is. And I know what it is better than you do because I'm older than you. I'm your coach and that's my job and I'm going to make you that good. And he was that guy. He was just, he showed me like how good I could really be at sports. He showed me how really good I could be at, things that I put my mind to and pushed me to levels that I didn't even think I thought were capable. So I had all that stuff at a real early age. So I was super lucky.
Here's what's impressive about you when you talked about the teacher side. Let's just, and I succeeded at sports and played a little bit of pro baseball and had some fun stuff there. And there's also this other side of sports when people talk about like lessons they learn and influences they have, but then there's this ego about being on the field and it looks like somebody's working hard and they're there for others. But in reality is I love being a superstar and I love running the football and scoring touchdowns and there's also that side of it. And I'm not saying it's bad. It just is what it is. So sometimes it's hard to dissect when we're idolizing athletes. Sometimes it's really hard to dissect how and why they're using their platform and like motives behind it and like why are they working so hard and if they're religious, like what are they doing on the field that correlates to that, or is it very self-centered? And I think a lot of the nature of the beast in that world you kind of have to be to an extent. But when you talked about being a teacher, it's super impressive because I can't remember the last time I've met somebody religious that I also can witness, articulate, and have examples of how they've practiced stories from the Bible or stories from their faith and how it correlates to their life and then how they exercise those abilities. I think that's what's most impressive. And that's not an NFL stadium. It's actually where you have influence. It's right here in the trenches with kids doing the best that I can to just give and super impressive, man. First and foremost, super impressive. And how long were you doing that for? And what kind of took you away from doing the teacher thing into the next chapter? And what was that next chapter for you?
Yeah, I did the teacher thing for about 2 school years. And at the same time, I was an assistant track coach with, again, one of the greatest mentors I've ever had. His name's JT Thiessen. He lives out in Fresno, California, but same kind of thing. Like every segment of my life, I can run into that one person who showed me something about myself and something about life. But the position I had was funded by a grant, and that got it's too boring for him, man. He had to take off. The position I had was funded by a grant. That grant got cut, and so I lost that teaching job. And I knew that I'd probably be chasing that as a physical educator because, like you said, like we don't even know if people work out in high school anymore. Like it's such a low,
and they're missing the ball on it. They keep thinking like, oh, you don't need to be. Wow, why do you need so much physical fitness? Like, hey, asshole. It has nothing to do with the bench press. Like this physical, this application here is a vehicle that's going to help relieve stress and handle some things mentally. And it's just in its physical form. And it's a tool, not an activity, right? Like I wish they weren't missing it so much, man.
Right. But completely blowing it. Like, and all the studies are there for that. Like, and all the information's there to prove exactly what you just said. So I actually moved back to Ohio. I moved back into my home with my parents and started going back to school for a master's degree in strength and conditioning, and then a second teaching degree in physics and chemistry. So
I knew it. See, you were sandbagging me, bro. All right, you taught physical education, but your closet passion was like super smart shit. Because most people don't know, like, that's me, chemistry. Like, people think I'm just a meathead, and it's embarrassing, and I have these like closet talents, and I knew you were one of them, bro. I knew it.
I'm sorry, and I got to take a time out from this story and address something really quick. This will add a nice little layer to the onion of this podcast. What can I do for you? Okay.
You have a raccoon poking its head around the house. I didn't find any entry points where there's going to be anything large getting into your attic. That being said,
Dan's got rats.
A little fence and stuff trying to find an entry point.
Yep.
They did not find one, but that being said, they're going to continuously come back until they do find one.
Yep.
Of course, we're just keeping the camera on him too.
Dan's got rats. Dan's got bed bugs.
Try not to laugh.
I'm going up this gutter, and well, the two downspouts over here.
Okay.
I'm going up that.
Okay.
That being said, it's multiple times that they've been back, and it's probably more than one.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Whatever needs to be done to.
And then game access into the attic. That's not a normal attic. That's just a fence.
Okay. Okay. I can get you up there. Actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want me to check it out, it could be 100%, but I was all over the top of the roof.
Okay.
Find any entry point.
Okay.
Found a couple potential spots where they were digging.
How many rats you got, bro? Remember Bad Boys 2?
Okay.
Like, and they're fucking. One rat was power driving the shit out of the other one.
Yep. No problem. Yep. Yep.
I'll get you set up.
Appreciate it. Sorry about that, guys.
You kept that game face on.
I want to hear all about it.
You get the window of when somebody's going to show up, and this just happened to be the window when it showed up. I let them know that I was doing this, but that's what it is. Apparently, I got a raccoon in my attic, so that's awesome.
Oh, you went
I thought it was rats. I thought it was like, remember Bad Boys 2, those big ass rats that were like eating money and fucking in the attic? Like the whole time I'm thinking like, because I heard some like scratching noise or something while you were on before that guy came in. I was like, those rats are fucking in his attic while we're trying to do a podcast.
That was the guy helping. He was taking a ladder upstairs. So.
Well, if they are fucking, it better be missionary and it better be to procreate, or it's not allowed.
Yeah.
Period. Just saying,
not in Dan's house.
Hey, dude. Funny side note, like that was in like the Marine Corps order. Like if you mated, it had to be missionary.
No shit.
And it like you couldn't have sex out of wedlock, and if you were married, it had to be missionary. Like swear to God, it's probably from 1775.
Wow.
But it was in there because like Marines were like, hey, a few good men and we drink a lot and kill everybody, but we're also gentlemen. It was like, what the fuck? And it was in there, dude. I'm not even kidding. I was like,
funny.
well, kick me out because I'm a dog, bro. That ain't happening. But getting back to it, we had rats. Connor had to potty, but we're good to go. Taking my kiddo on a road trip, man. It's got to go potty. So you're doing that. So all right, good. We got your closet nerd out. So you're going back to school for your master's and doing that, and continue.
Yeah. So I was doing that, and while I was at the University of Akron, I just started going to the rec center at Akron for at like 6 a.m. and you start to run into the same people every day. So eventually you start to work out with one another, right? Like you start chatting, and then pretty soon you've got 2 or 3 people that you're working out with. And so one of those guys named Will, he was a member at a local CrossFit gym called CrossFit Legacy in Barberton, Ohio.
And I was crushing. Number one guy.
He knew that I was competitive in track and field. And then even though it was done, every guy still wants to be competitive in something. So he's like, hey, you should check this CrossFit stuff out. And I did 2 or 3 workouts. One was Fran, and it absolutely buried me. Like I thought it was so easy. It's like with 95 pounds and pull-ups, I'm like, I'm going to crush this, and this isn't even going to be hard. And like 5 minutes later, whatever it was, 4 and change later, I can't remember, I was just on my back, like exhausted, and the reps were probably garbage, right? So I did that one, and Grace was the other one, 30 clean and jerks for time. And I actually did that one really fast. I think the first time I did it, I probably did it in like 90 seconds. And I finished that, and he's like, yeah, you're coming to the gym. Like, I need you to come over here and check this stuff out. And so I started going to the gym, learned about the CrossFit Games and how they crown the fittest person on earth, man, woman, and teen. And I'm like, oh man, like, of course, like I want to be the fittest guy on earth. Like, I'd love to call myself that. Like, it seems like a reasonable goal. And at the time, the conflicting piece with that was I was living at home with my parents, jobless, not making any money. I had some money stored up from the little bit that I worked, but like, going back to school and all that stuff, it didn't make sense. Like I was spending all my days working out and not like going to get some other job somewhere or applying myself someplace else. But it's one of those weird times, like we've already been over, like I'm a biblical guy. It's one of those times I felt like God was speaking to me, like something in my heart and in my gut just knew like, hey, you need to be doing this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like this is something that you need to get after. This is something you need to pursue. And it wasn't something where the heavens opened up and I didn't hear some voice or something stupid like that, or something, not stupid, but not as crazy as that. It was just something that I knew, something that I felt that I had to do. So,
and that's why you beat me. Because every time I CrossFit, God speaks to me like, put it down. That hurts. You're slow. I'm like, that's why Dan beats me.
Yeah.
You got God on your side? Well, no wonder why you beat the crap out of me, bro.
I've got on my side. I try to stand on God's side. I put it that way.
Oh, man.
Good answer, man.
So,
good answer.
And so I entered in my first competition at the registration closed at like midnight. I think I entered at 11:53 p.m. for what was sectionals at the time. And I had a month to prepare for sectionals. Went there, ended up winning that event, and then qualified for regionals and didn't make it that year. I just wasn't prepared. I wasn't as good as the other guys. I didn't have enough time under my belt. I could chalk it up to a couple things that happened in some workouts. Like I strained some muscles and some other things, but it's like your body just wasn't ready. Like the other guys were fitter than you. And at the time it was Graham Holmberg and Ben Smith were two of the other guys who actually made it to the games that year. Graham actually went on and won. And so after that, I knew it was like, I want to do this. Like, I know that this is what I want to do. I want to be called or crowned the fittest man on earth. And so I started making some changes in my life to kind of focus on that. And one of those changes, I met the owners of Rogue Fitness, Bill and Katie Henniger, down at sectionals in 2010. And I had reached out to them and said, hey, like, I'm interested in coming to work for your company. If you guys ever have anything open, let me know. And they knew me from regionals and the sectionals. They ran both those events. And so I ended up getting a job with them, working all sorts of different things, customer service, returns, warehouse stuff, back in 2011.
Was that still in the Midwest, or were you in California at that point, or where was that?
In the Midwest. Yeah, this is all still in Ohio. Like Columbus, or Rogue Fitness is based out of Columbus, Ohio, and it's still here today. Yeah, the place has moved a little bit, but yeah, still in Columbus, Ohio. So I was down in Columbus, working for Rogue, training for the games, and 2011 did great in the Open. Like I said, won the Open. Did great at my regional. I won my regional, and then at the games, ended up taking 6th. So was pretty fired up from that. Wanted to win the games, didn't that year. But again, it was just something that I knew that I kind of wanted to pursue, and I kept taking opportunities that would help push me in that strength and conditioning / coaching / teaching avenue, as well as being able to compete. And so after meeting Rich Froning and his crew at the games in 2011, they had mentioned that they're going to have a graduate assistant position open up at Tennessee Tech University that would pay for my master's, as well as come down and train with the crew and get ready for the 2012 CrossFit Games. And just like, yeah, sign me up. Like, train all day. And
is that the year Rich won?
What's that?
Was that year? Was that one of the years that Rich won?
Yeah, Rich won from 2011 through 2014. He won all 4 years in a row.
Khalipa, he won just prior to that, right?
Khalipa won in 2008, I want to say. 8 or 9. I can't remember.
He's a big guy. Yeah. He's a big dude.
He's a big guy. He's a big bear.
You watch that guy win, you go, how'd you win? Come on. That guy tells you, like, yeah, I'm a CrossFit Games champion. You go, like, shut up.
He's got huge arms.
Dude, that guy could move a house.
Yeah. But him moving around weight isn't that impressive to me. Now, when he can run and do gymnastics at the level that some of the smaller guys can, I'm like, I know how hard you had to work for that. Like, that's impressive.
He is a phenom. And then on top, so that was one thing against the grain that I remember that was like just interesting to me when because I was in the Marine Corps at the time, and I was watching all you guys just crush it and being around Brian Shantosh and introducing us to CrossFit and CrossFit Endurance when I was an instructor, and it was just combat readiness. And well, what is that? how do you get prepared for like unknown movements for unknown durations of time, and people thinking that your adrenaline's just going to crank and then like you just perform? That's not true, right? So CrossFit was an extraordinary vehicle for just different types of movements at unexpected times for unexpected durations of times that allowed us to prepare it. And being in the Marine Corps, like at first we talk shit because we can't do it. So that's what we first do. Right. And then secretively every day, like you ever spar like play box with someone and someone hits you a little harder. So you hit them a lot harder back. Every day we started training CrossFit. Someone would go just a little harder. You're like, faggot. Oh, not gay. I'm not saying that. Just like, oh, this is just Marine Corps vernacular. Apologize. But you're like, oh, fucker. All right, good. Then I'm going to get some sleep tonight. I'm going to drink a protein shake. I'm going to murder this guy tomorrow, right? And before you know it, you're like super competitive at the shit you're making fun of. But then all of a sudden you're stronger and you're more agile and things are working. And seeing a guy like Khalipa, I can't remember the other guy's name, but we had somebody come down to Camp Pendleton to the instructor house and was teaching us CrossFit endurance. And when they were first talking about CrossFit endurance, I was like, look, dude, you guys are out of your mind. Okay, I'm not doing that and then running that far. But this guy was like, I can't remember who he was. He was a little taller. And he was like, probably 220, 225, maybe. And he was one of the guys that did like 100-mile runs. But he was still big. And I was like, all right, I'll listen. And it's funny when you see that. So that was something that definitely caught my eye when I first started kind of getting around the CrossFit scene, was just things aren't always what you expect. And like guys that can perform, it's not just predicated on they're super little guys so they can perform. That was the first unexpected. The second irony of it all was every time there was a WOD named after a female, it's a nightmare. And I just was like, is that an omen? Like, what is that? And if there is, like, every time I'm dating a chick, like, all right, are you named after a WOD? If your name's Fran, I'm fucking out of here.
Oh, that's
Period.
hilarious. I'm
not around you. Like, all right, like, is there a Kate? No, there's not a Kate.
Great policy.
What the hell?
Bro.
Like, was there any rhyme or reason behind that? Like, or is it just that every CrossFit's a nightmare? Because I feel like the female named ones were just hard.
Well, like all the first named workouts were all girls' names, and a lot of them were girls that like were part of the original. I believe that this is the story. Part of the original crew at like the first CrossFit gym, like
and they were
Greg's
tough.
first CrossFit
They were
gym.
tough as nails, I bet, right?
Yeah, so like Nasty Girls is a workout, and that had to do with a handful of the first ladies that came to their gym who performed really well. Nicole, Fran, like all of the different girls' names. Yeah,
Nicole, we know Nicole through Tosh. What a phenomenal human being she is.
fantastic.
And we went out shooting with her out in Idaho one time, and she's soft spoken and just super kind, but like she'll give it to you though, dude. She had some jokes when we were out in Idaho, and she was talking trash to some guys that like were lower on the shooting awards, giving it to them, and I was like, oh yeah, there's some super competitive in her, and it was. But you know, it's all in good fun, and just what a cool person, you know, to be around. But yeah, man, like Khalipa just and here's what's fun about it. And I think that's, you know, one, it was attractive too, and I'm sure you can speak to this. As a matter of fact, here's the question for you. Military, we're huge on camaraderie and brotherhood, and no, we don't got to be best friends, but we're into something together, and we got each other's backs, and we're grinding, and camaraderie is forged in adversity, first and foremost, right? Like if you don't have adversity, you're not going to be as close as you want to be, period. It's just not going to happen. But CrossFit it still is to this day, like just the culture and the families that they start having at some of the boxes, what you guys did in the beginning, like from your perspective, from being around that early on, from working out, you know, with Rogue, and then, you know, Rogue working with CrossFit and being around CrossFit at that level so early on, was that something that was talked about from the gate? Was it something that just kind of developed over time, or where did that family just culture feel come from when it came to CrossFit early on?
Well, you nailed it there. I mean, it's that concept of shared suffering. You know, you have group classes, so you're going through everything together, and you're in a scenario where, like, yeah, you're being competitive, but, you know, at any gym you would start to notice, and I don't know where it came from, but the person who gets the most cheers, the most applause, the most encouragement is the person who's finishing last, right? Which is super rare, but it's like you're looking at that person, you're looking at the people around you, and you're like, I know what that person's going through. Like, I know how bad this hurts for them. I know how difficult it is for them. And it varies per person depending on the workout. So everybody's struggling at something, right? At some point, like not every one person is going to win every workout in the gym. Right. So, it's that concept of going through something really difficult together. And I think that was just a natural spawn of that from CrossFit classes, because it is something that's difficult. It is something that's fun. The fact that it is difficult makes it fun. And then going through it together in that small group scenario, just it breeds so many different things that go outside of just working out. Right. You learn something about somebody who you share that experience with, that, like you said, the bond's a little bit closer, and therefore you can take the relationship a little bit deeper outside of the gym, I think. So,
well, because you've got something in common, and even if you're last place, you just won, because everybody's cheering for you. And like, that's what fitness was all about for me, especially like with the Marine Corps and being exposed to some CrossFit. Like, hey, you're the slowest time on the clock, but you are the most cheered, most successful person today because you showed up. And you're out of shape, and you're insecure, and you're nervous, and you don't know how to do these things, but you're here. And then every day you're coming back to the gym, you're getting better, and you're getting better. And who cares if you're last? It's about your output. And I think that's always been huge in CrossFit, man, was people respect your output. If you got half-ass reps, people don't give a fuck about where you want to mark yourself or this or that. People care about the integrity behind your effort. And again, even if you're last, people can tell you're putting 100% into bettering yourself. They want to reward you. And I feel like when everybody's physically exerting themselves, and then you see somebody working through those challenges, nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's forcing it. When you have those endorphins going and everybody's crushing, and you watch somebody just putting that much effort into bettering themselves, you can't help but just be complimentary and just want to congratulate. And everybody kind of has those feelings.
No, 100%. I mean, couldn't agree more. And like, the atmosphere is great for it. And like you said, it totally develops something different than any other gym experience does.
Right. And so as you started getting more competitive, were you spreading the word about CrossFit? Or did you, when did you come? Because I'm guessing the next step as you started getting competitive, and bless your heart too, man, just letting Rich win, knowing that like you're a good friend and it's not all about you. And man, you could easily press and just be like, hey, Rich needs this.
I was living in his house at the time, so like it would have made a real awkward.
Yeah,
I would have.
And I see that. I see that in you, man. I think it's just what a gracious thing to do, and so after doing that for him, but hey, you're still on the circuit, you're still doing your thing. Like, did you start becoming an athlete for CrossFit? Was it paid? Was it not paid? What did that look like? What did that start growing into for you?
Yeah, let me answer that question right after.
Oh, that's great.
And then all you do is just give us a call as soon as anything gets in that trap. Every 2-3 days, I come back out, check things out.
I hope he catches the raccoon while we're on the podcast.
We need to have it dead on the wall next time he's on.
I mean, we'll take care of that right here if it happens.
Dude, let's do it, man.
Just pick the camera up and just run through the attic. Just we're live. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm not permission to touch my trash.
No, you got it. Okay, roger that. So on the circuit, working for CrossFit, athlete for CrossFit or not, I was never an athlete for CrossFit. CrossFit itself didn't pay for me to do like the games or anything like that. Like, that's not how that worked. Rogue was my number one sponsorship. They were the first company to ever come in and give me some financial benefit to doing what I wanted to do and helping me achieve that goal. Right. And it's I'm going to have to take tangent onto that one before I could jump back into CrossFit, because you ever see, that scene in Batman with the Joker where he breaks the pool cue and he's like, we're going to have tryouts, and just throws it down on the ground, and like two guys basically have to fight each other to the death to be on the Joker's team. Right.
Yep.
That basically happened on a cold day down at Rogue Fitness with a handful of just studs in the gym. Right. Wow. So Graham was there, who had just won the games. David Ulmer at the time and it was all like local guys who were local to kind of Ohio in the region. Bill's a big Ohio fan, and he brings all these athletes into the gym. Miko Salo was there, who was the 2009 CrossFit Games champion, and he's just an absolute machine, still is to this day. I love that guy. He's one of my favorite Games athletes ever. He's one of the guys who inspired me to want to do the CrossFit Games. Good to go. All right. Thank you. We go down there and we have this workout called Miyagi, and it's this like workout with 50 reps of everything. And it's like, it's devastating. There's like 50 clean and jerks, 50 wall walks, 50 toes to bar, knees to elbow. And it's just this long dragger workout. And so we finished that workout, and the only guy to beat me was Miko. And, the workout was over, and I don't know, I guess I did good enough in the season and in the little display there as well. And my first sponsorship was basically a one sheet of paper and a handshake with like $200 in it. And I was so excited. I was elated.
Yeah,
I was
man.
like, I am a professional athlete.
Yeah.
This is the real deal.
It's
like
an opportunity.
I'm going to work the tips off of my fingers to honor like this, awesome thing that I have. So, I've been with them, hanging out with them, doing stuff with them for the better part of 10 years. So they're the main source of like what got me through a lot of stuff. But,
well, and it's an opportunity. I mean, I'm sure at that point, like, yeah, $200, cool, put some gas in my car, but it was the opportunity of like where Rogue is going and what they're a part of, and they're spread across even outside of CrossFit. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that they're doing, and what a great opportunity that is. Miko beat you, and I feel like just true to Jesus, right? Jesus form, doesn't want to be winner, but like finds a way to bring the best out in everybody. You know what I mean? Kind of like a pacer, and just, hey, I'm not going to smash you, but I'm going to push you as hard as you can and just bring the best. I feel like, dude, honestly, Dan Bailey's probably been the people's champ and the CrossFit Games champ. Just chose to like make others better. That's my story. That's what I think.
I'm starting to take these as like subtle, like sack taps, like just little, like.
I just know, man. I just think you're better than him. I'm just saying. If you put Rich in your barn right now, I just think you beat him. That's all I'm saying, bro. I just think
stirring the pot, man.
I just think you beat him. I think if you're like, all right, hey, today's about me and fuck these, I think you just beat him. I just think you're better.
See, when there's not enough shit talking going on, Will just has to get in there, just jump in the pool and mix it up, man.
Yeah. Oh no.
Well, if you know Tosh, that's exactly where I get it. Kind planted seeds to get other people to like cockfight. It's one of his especially. He does it to me all the time. And I'm good at it. It still works on me.
Dan, Dan, when did you start turning into the brand that you are now, man? Like your social media following is huge, and coming from like, physics background, school, to this athlete with $200, man, you've done a hell of a job creating a business out of what you do. When did that start for you, and what did that look like? And was that your idea, or did someone kind of push you into that or guide you, or what did that path kind of look like?
Yeah, I think, the way that kind of happened, I think, was consistency with things, consistency in the goals that I wanted to pursue, consistency in where I knew I wanted to be. And I rarely said no to a unique opportunity that came my way. So like I mentioned, I went from Columbus down to Cookeville, Tennessee. I was there for about a year and a half. And then I went out and did some stuff for CrossFit HQ in like 2013, 2014, shot some videos, hung out, did some interviews. And Sevon at the time invited me back out. He's like, hey, why don't you just come out for an extended period of time? We'll work something out. You can help us generate some content. We'll just see where it goes. And I'm like, roger that. Like, I'm going. Like, packed up my gear, drove across the United States, and stayed with like Tommy Marquez and a bunch of other media guys out there for a while. And so kind of did that. And so all the while those things are happening, like I'm getting the chance to, getting the opportunity to show what I know, how I can deliver it. And it's the thing that I love to do, like talking about working out, talking about strength and conditioning, teaching people through these different avenues, as well as be a competitive athlete, and bringing that experience into the broader like landscape of CrossFit itself. So through all of those things, you start to, as long as you execute well and do well, you start to generate a following. You start to get people who are interested in what you're doing. They like what you represent, and they, enjoy the content that you bring. And so being consistent with all those things and staying true to myself, really staying true to my core values, who I am, not trying to put up a front about anything. And, those kind of things over a long period of time just add up to success in different avenues. And so in terms of when I actually started looking at it as a business, probably wasn't honestly until, outside of the sponsorship stuff, the working with different companies and getting some cool opportunities there. But, with programming, starting my own website, and all these things have kind of happened within the last 3 or 4 years, really. of doing that and kind of seeing the feedback from it, where I failed, where I screwed up, what people didn't like, what people like, and then kind of altering my course along there, and always keeping in mind of that term of servant leadership. Like, how can I serve the community that's around me and make it worth their while to support what I do? So
and that's such a good way to look at that, man. You know, because I think most people who try and build this like personal brand per se, it becomes, hey, spotlight's on me. It's about me. Look what I'm doing. And then that's when you stop being true to yourself. You start putting on that front. But with you having that servant mentality, it's you made it about serving others. And so the content that you put out, you're like, man, if I'm not being my authentic self, I'm definitely not serving others, because it wasn't about you in the first place. It was just you getting information out there and helping people in a way that you saw fit.
Right. And there's layers to that, right? Like you mentioned, I mean, you have to have a little bit of an ego if you want to be the best in the world at something. Like, you have to have some kind of edge there where you think and believe you're the best, right? Like, there's those two things kind of go hand in hand, but not getting completely caught up in it. I mean, you have to believe in yourself, right? You have to have that confidence. You have to believe, I'm the baddest dude who's about to step on this tennis court and I'm going to win. You know what I mean? Like, you have to believe that in yourself and have that confidence. But at the same time, I mean, I'd be a fool to say that, yeah, I did it all on my own, or yeah, like, this is all about me. Like, it's so obvious that that's not the case. We can go back to the two coaches I talked about, my parents, my training partners, including like Rich Froning, Miko Salo for a time, Graham Holmberg, David Ulmer, like all these other guys that were by my side at some point in my life to help push me and get me to where I got to the success that I had. And they're not all responsible for it, but I couldn't have done it without them.
Well, just knowing when to turn that on and off, right? Like, just understanding, like, if you go to an event, you guys are doing some video and some content, or you're meeting people, like, understanding, like, hey, I'm here for people and I'm giving value. But then, like, when you're doing your WOD, right, or you're doing your workouts, or your squat training, or whatever you're improving on, and you're in that barn, and it's, hey, it's you. Like, that's where it gets turned on. That's where it's about me, and I got a chip on my shoulder, and I'm gonna crush this day in and day out, because that's gonna equal what I need to crush and perform. Because people, you know, not only does me being a servant to them serve them, me performing well and having people cheer, that people that have believed in me, people that have been watching me, when they go watch me crush, what they get to feel because of my success is also something, right? I think it's just about understanding when to just have some perspective and turn some things on and off, and understand, like, hey, what hat's on right now, and how am I approaching that, and then having the great ability to just compartmentalize your day and figuring out, like, hey, what am I doing and when?
Yeah, the way that I was trained and taught too was that you're doing God a disservice if you don't walk out onto the competitive floor with that attitude that you're going to win, and you don't believe in yourself, and you don't believe that you've been given these cool gifts that you can put on display. Like, you're actually doing a disservice to the gifts that you've been given if you don't try to exercise those to the maximum amount. And that means beating your competitor, right? And like, I know that, you know, before stepping out on the floor in an event, there's been times where myself, Chris Spieler, Rich Froning, Graham Holmberg, we've all been in the same heat. We're all, you know, God-loving, Bible-thumping, you know, love Jesus Christ kind of guys. And so we'll pray together before, but it's like, hey, as soon as the prayer's broken there, I'm going to put you into the dirt, bro. Like, that's what my goal is.
You just imagine Dan, like, right at the gate, right? Like, it's fucking dark in the tunnel. And Dan just, like, looks at you and he goes, peace be with you. You're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
No way. God's on his team and he just said that?
Like, oh, no.
How is that even fair? Good golly. But I'd be down for that. I'd be like, and also with you. Yeah. Fucking roll. But that's what it's all about. And I think ultimately, man, the way that you've got, you know, like the Rich Fronings and you, and the way you guys have approached it, man, attention and success, it does highlight you. But then once you're highlighted, it's what you're choosing to do with your platform, and being about your faith and being true to who you are, to just give other people permission to be okay with their faith and be okay with their lack of fitness, and just dive into something for the right reasons. Like, I think that's what you're articulating, or that's how I'm understanding it, is like, hey, you're doing a disservice, but once you're there and you're winning and you're successful, good, all eyes on you. Okay, great, because now I can shed light on my faith and how I choose to be successful. And I think just that example across the board, like professional athletes, or celebrities, whatever you want to call it, anybody has attention. And I know, like, it's not fair for athletes to be, you know, put on a pedestal all the time and expected to just be these leaders, you know, of the world because they got 10 gazillion followers on Instagram. And, hey, I didn't ask for this, I didn't ask for that. Like, True, but there should be some level of responsibility there, and there should be some, and I feel like just the CrossFit community has done a great job at, and not even just, and I don't mean CrossFit the brand, just the name CrossFit. I mean Rogue. Yeah. I mean just the people. I'm talking about the people in it. Have done a great job at like being great resources for one another and empowering one another regardless of who's champion. And I wish that were more relevant in football and baseball and basketball, and just a little bit more accountability to how we're behaving, and a little bit more accountability to just trying to spread the right words. And I don't mean politically. I don't mean anything about that. I just mean about our behaviors, because I promise you as a dad, I'm a dad now. Weird. God's on my team, gave me beautiful kids. He might have taken a day off. I'm like, oh shit. Well, now I gotta help him out. Right. But I feel like now that I'm a dad, I understand, just like I looked up and I watched athletes and things like that. If your behavior is one way, but you're preaching something different, it's really hard to get behind that. And when you actually do believe in something and you want to say something, but your behavior's been different for however long, how can you expect people to believe two words that are coming out of your mouth if it hasn't been? Like, even when you are, okay, I'm genuine now, like, oh, this does matter and I do want to get behind it. Yeah, but you've been a dirtball for a decade, and like now that you have a huge platform, have you seen some of that at your level, man, of just challenges or hardships as far as accountability, or people staying the course as far as like just being a good dude?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like the thing about it is the tough thing in society or in the world is when you put the connotation Christian on you, and when you say you're going to, you're representing that and those different values and beliefs, like the first thing that people jump to is that you're supposed to be this perfect person, that you are like, you're saying you're better than X, Y, and Z over here, these people over here. And it's like, that is the wrong connotation to have, right? Like, me saying I'm a Christian is basically me raising my hand and going, hey, I'm a giant screw up and I need help. Like, I go to church to get help. Like, I'm sitting in there fully admitting I'm a hypocrite, and like, I want to work this out. And the way that guy lived and the way that he did it, Jesus Christ, like, that's how I want to do it. And that's what I'm trying to do every day. And that takes an incredible amount of discipline. And I've had plenty of ups and downs along the way. Like, I've hurt people. I've said things. I've been mean. I've said things wrong. I've probably backstabbed some people, and those are all things where, like, you notice it, you admit you did wrong, you admit what you screwed up, and then you move forward, right? Like, that's kind of how you handle those situations. And, it gets to me because you think, okay, the social media, like, I need to keep this going. You want more followers, you want more eyes on you, you want more attention. It helps drive business. It helps drive all these other things. Oh no, what if they find out about this? What if they find out about X? What if they find out about, and I have to kind of take myself back about that and be like, hey, this stuff doesn't define you. Like, if this is gone tomorrow, what are you and who are you? And that's who you need to focus on being, like, every day, right? Like, those aren't the things that need to completely be the source of your happiness, completely need to be the source of everything you do, right? It needs to be this other stuff. It needs to be the way you walk, the way you live your life. It needs to be all those different things. And so I've definitely had some situations where that's been exposed, specifically in the last 2 years, basically. Like I said, I've always been taught that, like, I compete for an audience of one. By that, I mean, I compete for God. Like, it's not for all these other things. Like, I want to exercise the talent to the max for that reason and that reason only. And you can say that, and you can read that, and you can see it, and you can experience it on different levels, but it's always different when it's all taken away from you. And so in 2018, I knew the check engine light on my body was on, like, blinking in my face, like everywhere, like, hey, you need to stop. You need to slow down. You maybe need to take a year off. I actually had a sponsor of mine basically say, hey, just take the year off. Like, it's okay. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, just, you need to recover. You need to recoup. And I'm like, nah, like, I'm hard charging. Like, I'm not going to be a wuss. I'm not going to be weak. Like, we're going to go do this thing. And I had doctors telling me to take more time off. And so all of the signs are being thrown in my face, and I let pride get in the way of that. I competed in the 2018 Open and knew that I had something. I probably knew I had a hernia for sure. I already knew that was there from 2015 and before. I knew that something was wrong with my shoulder. Wasn't sure what, probably a labrum tear. And then I always had all this pain in my tendon in my knee. And so we go to do this event. It ends with it's like a workout into a max squat clean, or max clean in your last remaining time. And the last squat clean I do with like 10 seconds left on the board, my quad tendon completely ruptures. So my quad just came off my knee, just snapped. As soon as my arms came around on the bar and the weight like sat down on me, it felt like a shotgun went off in my knee. It wasn't like super painful. It was just that visceral, gross feeling of, oh my gosh, like I just did something really seriously bad. Like this is, and I've never had to have surgery before that. I've been really fortunate with, injuries and those kind of things. I, tore a hamstring and tore a quad and did some other stuff, but, this was crazy. I didn't handle it well either. I went down in a heap on the floor, screaming like a baby, like no idea what was going on. And so long story short, like, hey, your season's over. Like not just your season, but with this,
who knows?
At the age you're at, probably your career, like potentially, and so, I know how I'm supposed to respond to that, right? I know how I've been versed in it. I've been taught in it. But the thing that people need to understand about those situations when those trials come, no matter how prepared you are, it still hurts. It's still a painful, miserable, awful situation, even as a Christian. The book of James says, not if trials are going to come your way, it says when. It's going to happen. Like this stuff is going to happen and it's going to suck. Like that's part of the deal. That's part of how you become a better person, right? Stronger person in anything. And so, halfway through like the rest of 2018, I had the double hernia surgery and I also had a labrum surgery. So I had 3 surgeries in 2018. Couldn't do anything that I love to do. Couldn't get out in the gym. Was completely miserable, like watching my body kind of wither away a little bit, watching my leg wither away. I hated going into the gym because I wasn't the same person. Like I can't lift any weight. I can't do the things that I thought I could do. And so I got super depressed, like pretty much through the majority of like 2019. I never thought I knew what depression was. And now I know. Now I'm really aware of like how low that is. Like the wake up in the morning feeling, the driving to work being just miserable, like weird things like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced anything with it, but it's just never been feeling so bad about yourself and just being that low. And so that's what I was trying to cling on to. Like that's what that stuff's for. That's what my Bible training for. That's what understanding who I really am is for those lowest of the lows and knowing who to reach out to help deal with those times. Cause it's coming. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're huge. Or not.
And it's your identity.
It's right.
It's your identity. It's everything, man. And to speak a little bit to that, when you say, hey, I'm not sure if you guys have ever gone through it. Like Eli deals with me every day. Bless his heart. He's a faithful guy. In addition to that, though, real talk was, I was talking to you about the podcast, before the podcast on like, sleeping in that pantry and studying real estate. But man, I was a Marine Corps in the Marine Corps for a long time, for 8 years, and did some cool SOCOM stuff and did a great job there and did some government work and police work and got the Guardian Angel / Medal of Honor Award while I was a police officer and all these things, man. And then I decided to branch off of police work and I helped my buddy build a fitness company and he owned it and I was his number 2 and we had a great time and I was like, cool. The excitement of like, oh, I want something for myself and all right, cool. So I start selling everything and, my lady's living at home with her folks and our daughter and I'm sleeping in my buddy's mom's Y2K pantry and people are like, why didn't you stay with your in-laws? Like, I was like, one, I didn't want to overstay my welcome, right? Like, first and foremost, I like that they like me. It's going to stay that way. Secondly, I also knew like when I decided to do this, it was around the holidays and I don't need to be eating pie and watching movies with my daughter and not studying. I need to study. So I woke up every day. I got the gym done. I was studying for 8 hours a day to knock out this broker's course. And then I was doing Uber and Lyft at night to just try to make a buck and feel valuable to my daughter. But long story short, man, the Lyft wasn't producing that much. I could not afford my stupid car that I still held. I sold all my stuff except for my one really nice car, my baby, dumbass. Couldn't afford it while I was doing Uber and Lyft and had to get rid of that. And then, all right, cool. I get licensed. All right. So I'm licensed and then I have no car. So my mom signs the dotted line for a car for me. And my dad's a truck driver, man, blue collar guy. My mom's retired. Like they don't have my parents' house cost the same as this car. And I had some negative equity on the car that I was getting rid of. So you couldn't just go get a cheap car. You had to get a car that could hold the negative equity and all that jargon. And I'm driving to I'm driving back to work after I get this car. The buddy of mine who was running this dealership's giving my mom a drive home after she buys this car for me, right? And goes in the hole too. We got a $2,000 rebate added to it so I could put gas in the damn thing for the next month. And I'm in this stupid tie that just doesn't feel like me. That's not, it's not mine. I'm in this car that's not mine. And I get a phone call that a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps had just been hit on his motorcycle and he died. And I'm just like, dude, like I'm crying. I'm trying to like suck it up. I'm going to work. And I'm all right. So I go fake it at work. I'm making some calls for real estate. I do the best I can for a couple hours and put it in and get some social media out. And I'm driving home and I just felt like the wind was taken out of me, right? Like, who did I used to be? Like, I've achieved all these things. I'm in a car that's not mine. Wearing a tie that's not mine. And my buddy's dying. And like, the wind was out of me. And I'm just like, when am I going to catch a break? And what a selfish thing to say in the first place, right? But you're weak and you have moments. And then my lady calls me we had just gotten a townhome at this point that she's paying for, so now I feel even worse. I didn't want to go home until midnight. I want to work, and not even mean it because I'm not contributing to it. And she calls me, and I tell her what happened, and she's like, okay, I'll see when you get home. And I get home, and she's crying. I'm like, hey, don't cry for me. Like it's about him and his family, and I'm just in this bad place. And she's like, no, we got to talk. And I'm like, of course we do. Fuck. Right, like I'm broke. I'm driving a car that's not mine. Like, yeah, you met somebody else. Here it comes. And I kind of said that, and she's like, what? No. Like, and there's an envelope on the counter in the kitchen. So I like walk in the kitchen, and I get some water, and she opens it up, and she had this little nice letter written for me and the pregnancy test. We were pregnant. All in the same time and out. Dude, it's a gift. And if you haven't ever seen my son on social media, I'm sure you'll follow me one day, Dan, because I'm a big deal. So you'll follow me one day. He's a gift. But at that moment, I promise you, it didn't feel like that. I felt numb. I didn't know. It was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. And back then, I didn't know how to talk to God. So God talks to me, right? Literally, find out about my son on the same day that a fellow Marine like passes away and like that. And I felt that. And I started, unbeknownst to me, I started focusing like, who am I, man? And what am I all about? And what do I want to be about? And, like when we found out we had a son a couple weeks later, like 2 weeks later. And now it's just different than a daughter. And it was like, how's he going to see me? And how do I represent myself? And how am I leading? And what do I want to represent and be about? And I started doing real estate like that. I didn't try to fit into real estate. I made that fit me. And what was great about me, what were my skill sets from managing people's emotions and making people feel safe and being able to plan 10 steps ahead? What about me made me good at that? Not me trying to fit in the tie. Got rid of the fucking tie. And I wear button downs or flannels or t-shirts, but I'm me and it's organic, right? So I'm not against dressing up. It wasn't me. But I didn't really know how to talk to him back then, and I was numb, and that was a low time driving my mom's car, dude, back and forth and just grinding. But once I found out I was having a son, the noise kind of quieted, and all of these little pity party things that I was allowing to creep into my brain and almost like allow myself to be a victim, it started becoming about, hey man, you've got 7 months left before he's here. What do you want to be about? What are you going to be about? What type of dad do you want to be? How do you want him to know you? And how's he going to hear about, all of those things mattered. And I just started putting my energy into work, into everything that I was doing with who I wanted to be and how I wanted to bring value to people. And then no shit, all of a sudden, man, like how I chose to go about real estate is what crushed it. Had nothing to do with me trying to fit in, but I'm sure you can speak to some of that depression, right? Of like, man, we talk about faith and this and that, but boy, is it hard when you're truly at a low and like, you know what, man, sometimes gifts are given to you and sometimes things are talking to you and you don't even know it yet. But what's important is that you just find ways to just get up and get after it. And something for me was always like, I've got to get my workout. I got to keep my mind and my body right. I got to get a gallon of water. Hey, if my mind and body aren't right, I can't serve people and I will just not have the energy for it. But it's interesting, like how he'll speak to you and maybe you don't quite hear it yet, but there's something there that's moving you forward and you can't quite take credit for it. But that was a huge low for me, but now it's been a huge high because that's been a super pinnacle piece for me and a teaching point. And it's also been a lesson for me and a chapter that I can now relate to somebody on. And I'm sure through injuries and through some things that you've gone through, with your platform and when you're around athletes, other people with Rogue, or just through social media, like you've got these other layers to you where you can speak in first person and relate to people. And I'm sure you can speak to how powerful that is.
Oh no, for sure. And like, because I shared some of that journey of trying to get back into the gym and try to get back into shape and try to, I was like, I need to put this stuff out there, even though I didn't like doing it. Cause I don't want to, the part of you that doesn't want to appear to be weak and appear to be whatever, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to show people that I can only squat snatch like 190 right now, or whatever it is. Like that's literally
if I even
all
tried a squat snatch, I would die. You understand that, right? Like I did that with a PVC pipe and fell fucking backwards and broke my damn ass. So like, let's just be clear, right? Show off.
But because I showed that stuff, like, more people would reach out. More people would say, hey, I just had this surgery. How did you do this? And it's like, oh, awesome. Like I can answer that question. Like, I know exactly what you need to do. Go get a set of bands, go try this. Do you have this? Do you have that? Try these workouts, keep yourself moving no matter what you do, and understand that, it's one step at a time. Like, sure, you're not there today, but you're going to be there 6 months from now. And I know because I did it, right? Like you're going to get there. So yeah, that's been a great experience. Like anybody who messages me if I control through my messages about injuries or anything or what they're dealing with on that front, like I'm always going to try to answer those. Like I'll be like, look, I'm here to help you.
It's powerful, right? It's motivating. It's powerful. And it feels like kind of like being a dad now. Like, and it's no disrespect to people that's not a parent. No, I'm just saying, for example, once you're a parent, it's like you have this whole other layer of like conversations with other people, or injuries, man, trials and tribulations and injuries. And believe it or not, like having the strength to expose some of how you're getting through it. And just the fact that you're getting through it day by day, like how well that speaks to people. And then I'm sure when people were reaching out, I'm sure that felt good. And then you felt like you're being super valuable to them. Did you, in those moments where you're like, oh, that's God? Or is it more of like once you reflected back that you realized some of that stuff and how he was guiding you through it?
No, totally. Like I'd noticed that, or I'd recognize that that's God, and it's funny because it's not necessarily what you want. It wasn't what I wanted. I would have rather been whatever that year I'm the CrossFit Games champion. Everybody wants to know how you did it. Those are the questions that you would prefer to get. Right. But that's not your role right now. That's not what God had for you. This is what he's got for you. So do the best with what you can with it and do, witness and help and do those things in the scenario that he currently has you in. Right. And like, it's funny because the injuries themselves were bad, but it was like, it was almost like God's way of getting my attention on all these other things that I hadn't been paying attention to that were becoming problems, right? Like there's all this other stuff that I need you to sort out, like emotionally and mentally and all these other things that you're not. And these injuries are going to expose it. You know what I mean? Like this taking away of the number one thing that you love right now is going to expose all those other things for you to take care of first. Wow. Right. And so, yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but
no, I love it. No, you're right.
I wanted to add there.
Well, and something that we teach a lot that we kind of go through is just that, right? When we teach people real estate, it's like, hey, listen, if I can teach you to be a better you, whether it's real estate, fitness, like whatever you want to go crush, that's your passion. If I can dial you in and work on some of that, this real estate shit don't matter. You're going to crush because you're going to be super comfortable with who you are and your integrity and your work ethic and why you're doing it in the first place and how to give. And I think that's what you're getting to is like a lot of the things that we're building up and distractions or things that you were distracted from, that you weren't handling as far as like with you. Cool. You're a broke dick now. Guess what? You got all sorts of time to work and reflect on some of these things that just need your attention that, hey, if you're this stud vehicle over here doing this, you're just never going to give it time. And it's interesting how life or your, or God, whatever you believe in, finds ways to slow you down.
Right.
100%. Before we get on to, and I'm sure you got to get going too, not, before too long, you got raccoons and rats and you got some Jumanji hunting to do in your house.
That made this. I'm so glad.
I'm so glad too, because now I can be like, hey, I'm a trained marksman. If you just invite me over to hang out with me, I'll kill that raccoon for you, bro.
Done.
Yeah, I got it, right? Like, I got to build value for you. If I'm the raccoon killer, I cannot wait to tell the story of like me calling you thick as cold peanut butter into a podcast into we'll kill the raccoon for you. And yeah, dude, now we're just best friends. We take photos for Christmas with our ugly sweaters on and send them out and shit.
I've had to dispose of one or two animals out here so far. It did not go well for me. I'll just put it that way. I won't that too deep into that as to not offend listeners, but One time when we're off air, I'll share that story with you because
please do. And don't call Andy. Andy's got too much money and he wants to have too much fun. If you tell him you got a raccoon house, he's gonna find a way to blow your damn house up.
Well, I know, yeah.
Right now, for me, I would catch that humanely, and I would release it by Andy's house, so it can go in Andy's house. Yeah, right? Yeah. We'll do it the right way. But before we move on I want to give Connor an opportunity for one of our buddies just asking questions if maybe he's got a couple questions. And then the final chapter I want to hit with you right now before you get off, and before we get to that is just what you're doing now, like what you're doing with your faith, what you're doing with your brand and other businesses outside of, the fitness community or that has to do with fitness community, just kind of like what Dan's all about, what he's doing right now. How are you still attacking every day like it's day $1.00? I'm sure once you got healed after your surgeries and you were back, you were 100%. I bet you were thrived. You had perspective of like what it's like not to be able to have it. So I'm sure one of your day $1.00 was like, I'm broke and I cannot move. And then once you got back, I'm sure there's just some revitalization there and some tenacity to like being smart, but attacking it and just taking advantage of all of that. And then I'm sure that bleeds into your business. But Connor, you got any questions for Dan before I jump into that?
Yeah, Dan, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but you talked about kind of making the transition into personal brand building and stuff like that, and staying true to yourself, and just kind of what that means to you, what's important to you, and kind of doing things and putting yourself out there in ways that really reflect who you are. But obviously, I was just kind of wondering, were there any times where you didn't do that, or you kind of got into deals or sponsorships, or you kind of put stuff out there that wasn't you? And then ultimately, if you did get into those, kind of how'd you get yourself out of it, and how'd you kind of steer back towards you being you and sticking to that?
Yeah. No, for sure. Like there was definitely, at the time when especially when we were, when I was competing, back in like 2011, 12, anything like that, you're liable to say yes to any deal that kind of floats across your desk, just because you're like, you need some kind of financial benefit to sustain training and doing what's necessary, to do that. So for sure, there was a couple decisions there that like I jumped on a little bit too quick, and, it's nothing that I really regret or anything like that, because I learned something from it. Right. So, I'm definitely more, I take more time to make those decisions now, and I know what questions to ask. And I wouldn't say that it was anything that I was putting out on social media or anything that I was walking around representing. Most of the brands all the brands that I've represented over the years, I've been fine with representing and proud to represent. But I definitely take some more time. I definitely ask some more questions, to make sure that, hey, what you're doing is going to match who I am, right? Kind of like what you mentioned before about I'm going to do real estate my way. It's kind of like that. It's just like, if you guys aren't okay with me, I got a Bible verse here and there. I talk about Jesus a lot. I talk about the Bible on YouTube and all these other things. And you're not down with me explaining that on your channel when you ask me what motivates me, and I just tell you the truth, and you're like, whoa, we can't put that out. It's like, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. You can't put that out, but you and I aren't a good fit. Yeah. It's not going to work, because I'm not going to lie for, somebody. I'm not going to, hide the truth of what my answer is, because it's not like I'm not trying to like throw a Bible in somebody's face. This is just what's true about me.
But if you ask what motivates me, I got to tell you. And it's also, man, if people do that, right? I appreciate when you say like, hey, I don't mind. That's business. I'm just, we're just not good for business. But I think you and I and Eli and anybody experienced in business knows, hey, if you're restricting me from telling my truth, you're clearly here for just my platform, and you want to manipulate me into whatever works for you. So even if it's not about my faith, even if it's not this, there's going to be something else 6, 8, 9, 12 months down the road where you're still doing the same thing and there isn't any integrity behind what you're doing. So this is just one little flash of what I don't like, but it's a character flaw within your company, and you're clearly prioritizing your own motives over people's actual truth. And that's a character flaw. And that's not changing. And character flaws tend to expose themselves consistently over time. And you see it once, it's like, hey, man, I don't need to see that again. I understand what that is. And it's the same thing with dating or relationships. There are some things where like people can just agree to disagree, or hey, we can learn how to have some differences. And then there's some other things within a relationship where like, hey, that's just a character flaw. You're just a pathological liar, and that's going to be a problem. And no matter how much I care about you or want you to be about, like, hey, if that's just you, This has nothing to do with me, and there's nothing I can do to fix that. I'm just going to end up coping with that for the duration of this relationship, and it's not good for you, and it's not good for me, and I'm just better suited somewhere else. And I think like within business, I'm sure you can speak to this. It's just relationships. It's relationships, and it's super important. And with that being said, the relationships that you have now and businesses that you got going on right now, like what's currently in the mix for Dan, for Dan right now, and what are you striving for in the future? What direction are you going?
Right now, in terms of businesses, one is a training website, which is alwaystrain.com. And the thought of that is that, or the motivation behind it is that you should always be learning something. You should always be training. You should always be working towards some kind of goal somewhere, something in all sorts of different aspects of life. Like, don't be a one-dimensional person, right? Have knowledge among a whole bunch of different dimensions. And so I offer like a whole bunch of different training programs there, as well as I'm going to add a whole bunch more within the next year, because fitness, working out, everything, you should touch all of it. You should do bodybuilding. You should do CrossFit. You should go for an endurance run. You should learn how to do a triathlon. Like you have that capability, and you're going to learn something important about yourself if you do those things.
You ever seen Dan's back?
Yeah. Jesus.
Bro.
Yeah.
That came from just so many different facets of fitness, probably cutting down trees and throwing them on his back like Rocky. Remember Rocky doing lunges in the snow with a log? Like, bro.
That nice styrofoam log he had. Yeah,
I digress. What else are you diving into, Dan?
The other one has to do with the hat I'm wearing. It says Danny Broflex on it. So
Danny Broflex? Oh, shit.
Often, very overlooked. I'm a pretty shy guy for the most part. I've been pretty shy for most of my life. It takes a lot to pull some things out of me. I initially didn't like the camera. I was super awkward around it. And it took a lot of I don't know if I want to call it courage. That's kind of a bad word to use, but
like nurturing, to get that out.
It took a lot of basically training and working up the confidence to talk,
self-confidence, and
the camera. So when this stuff started, back in 2013 or 2014, and some of it came out, people were just shocked. They were like, "What is this? And how are you doing it? Why are you?" But what they don't know is if I'm around my closest buddies, the buddies that I grew up with. That's me. That's my brother too. He and I are very similar in the way we joke around. We're super sarcastic, about everything. And we make jokes about anything, especially the gym. And so Danny became a character where that could be an outlet to the public. Here's this side of me that you're probably never going to know because I'm not going to be close friends with most of the people that I'm with on social media, but here's a little taste of it. Here's kind of how some of that goes. He's supposed to just be everything that's wrong with the fitness community. He's confidently wrong about everything he does. Right?
Dude,
no.
I love it.
He wants to be right and he means well, but it's just a train wreck. Everything he does is just an absolute disaster. So myself and the Buttery Bros, Heber Cannon and Marston Sawyers, are two guys that used to work for CrossFit HQ. We've been shooting episodes for basically the past year and a half. And so we've got 6 that are ready. 2 have already been released on Pump Juice YouTube channel. And so we've created some merch around it from some of the dumb sayings that we've come up with and some of the funny sayings and that kind of stuff. So that's all on DannyBroflex.com. And that's just been a lot of fun. That's just a fun side gig.
Dude.
I'll get a text from Heber. He's like, "We need to do an episode about this." It's just the most ridiculous thing that has ever been written. And at the time I'll read it and I'm like, "Oh, this is a great idea." And then I remember I actually have to go put the wig on and execute what he's written down. He's like, "No, you guys are going to shake hands and do this. And then, you're both going to have boners when you back up." And I'm like, "Whoa, hold on."
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's talk about this. Hold on.
Hey, don't weaken. Don't weaken.
Yeah,
don't weaken. You gotta stay character. You gotta stay and in that video, you better stay hard longer than that dude. You gotta win.
Yeah, so
hey, bro, always winning.
He knows what my lines are, and he always tries to push that envelope a little bit. And he's every time before an episode comes out, I'm like, "We can't do this. We can't release it. It's a bomb. We're not gonna laugh."
Dude, I had an idea for the podcast. I told Eli it should be the cop and the Jew, straight up, and just hey man, let's just stereotype the shit out of each other and have some real life current event conversations. And typical, he shot it down and didn't like the idea.
That'll be our second one.
We got to be all motivational.
That'll be our second
day
one.
$1.0 and the tack line. All right.
Oh shit!
But what a super cool. I gotta look that up. I definitely need a Danny Broflex hat.
Dude, I know.
It's hilarious.
I think I'm buying one of those today.
Yeah,
you said you just dropped those recently today, right?
Yeah, I think those are just up on the website recently. I'm going to make a couple posts
Cool.
about it.
Can we find that on your Instagram? Can I get to your store through your Instagram?
Yes, I'm pretty sure for Danny Broflex. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're on the link tree if I don't. So
We definitely got to get him, man. Well, we'd love to have you on again. I'm sure there's just, anytime you get an hour or 90 minutes from somebody, it's just probably so much more to talk about in relationship wise. And you're just one of those guys, man, that's been in the grind. And not only are you a business guy, but you're just a practitioner of your craft. And I'm sure, over the next 6 months, year, 2 years, it's going to be so much more to talk about and expose to people. And obviously we'd love to continue in the relationship and just hang out or bro flex together or kill, catch
raccoons.
Catch some raccoons. And listen, man, we really appreciate it. Obviously, it's a huge favor for you to even consider coming on, and obviously that's a huge benefit, for our platform and for people that get to just be exposed to you and hear you, and what a gift, man. And however we can build value or do something to you. So if it's landscaping or throwing some wood on that barn or catching raccoons and throwing them at Andy's house, all good. I'm definitely team Dan, but whatever we can do, man, to build some value with you, it'd be fun to continue that relationship. And who knows, man, I know we'll be seeing Andy in December. So that'll be fun, but who knows in the future, man. But obviously, open invitation. Anything we can do for you to build some value, man, we'd love to do that for you.
I appreciate that. I'll definitely take you up on it, and appreciate you guys having me on again. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all the work you've done, and yeah, I just appreciate it, guys. Had a lot of fun chatting with you. I hope to be back on.
Likewise, man. Appreciate you, and appreciate you being so honest, and open with your faith. And so I think some of us guys that see it or we heal it or we feel it, like we don't necessarily know how to have those conversations yet, or how to respond to talk when maybe he's talking to us, for us, and we just don't know how to respond quite yet. But just hearing guys in the same entrepreneurial world, this shit's hard. Just like, we talk about that with Andy, this shit's hard. It's a grind. And faith matters. And so definitely personally for me, man, just you being open and talking about that, it definitely hit some good strings for me today, and just some reflection that I can do for myself, and just getting better at hearing some of that, and just being a little bit more deliberate with how I talk back, and also how I express my own faith and confidence with that, man. So what a huge gift for just with you being open and honest about it. And I know personally for me, man, I really appreciate you being able to do that for us.
Likewise.
All right, man. That's awesome.
Right
Thank
on.
you guys.
Well,
Right
cool,
on.
brother.
We're gonna kick this music, and then we'll send everybody off.
All right, let's do it. Thank you guys for listening.
guys.
Day $1 Zero podcast. Out.